Let me start by thanking Ambassador Dr. Reza Mohammed, President Islamabad Policy Research Institute and organizing team of this joint April News seminar on development in the Middle East, lessons and opportunities for Pakistan. The topic of my presentation today is the Saudi-Pakistan relation and the new Middle East order. The Middle East, as we all know, is currently under a major transformation away from conflict and towards reconciliation. This historic development, particularly the normalization of relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran, offers considerable opportunity for strengthening the brotherly relation between the kingdom and Pakistan. The emerging new order in the Middle East is particularly conducive for expanding trade and economic cooperation. My presentation is divided into three parts. I will begin by reviewing the progress in Saudi-Pakistan relations. Then I will describe the current changes that points towards the emergence of a new order in the Middle East. I will conclude by analyzing the potential opportunities for Saudi-Pakistan relations, especially regarding the expansion of trade and economic cooperation. Ladies and gentlemen, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have a unique, profound, and durable relationship in the political, security, economic, and cultural spheres of bilateral cooperation. Both nations also have shared concerns and interests on regional and global issues of peace and security. The kingdom was among the first UN member states to recognize Pakistan. Both nations concluded a treaty of friendship in 1951 and a defense protocol in 1969. A glorious chapter of Saudi-Pakistani ties unfolded in the 1970s under the leadership of King Faisal bin Abdulaziz and Prime Minister Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. Its highlights was the 1974 Lahore Islamic Summit of the OIC. In 1982, while fighting the anti-Soviet war in Afghanistan, the two nations concluded a major bilateral security cooperation agreement that governs their close defense ties until today. In 1989, when the Iraqi invasion of Kuwait threatened the territorial integrity of the kingdom, Pakistan participated in the international coalition of dispatching an army division to act as the first line of defense in the Saudi border region. A decade later, as Pakistan came under heavy Western sanctions after its 1998 nuclear test, the kingdom met the bulk of its oil needs for a year on deferred payment, most of which was later converted into grants. These are only a few notable instances from history which show how our two nations have stood by each other in difficult times, from Kashmir to Palestine, and over pivotal challenges to the Ummah from global terrorism and Western Islamophobia. Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have always expressed shared interest and adopted common approaches at all multilateral platforms. Recent years have seen a major transformation in Pak-Saudi economic relations, whereby the kingdom is interested in long-term investment in Pakistan's development sector while continuing to shore up its foreign reserve. For instance, well before Pakistan opted for the $6 billion emergency relief in 2018, including a $3 billion loan and $3.2 billion oil credit facilities on an annual basis for the next 3 years, to avert a severe balance of payments crisis facing Pakistan soon thereafter. In February 2019, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman visited Islamabad, concluding the biggest ever investment deals worth $20 billion. These include a $10 billion Aramco oil refinery and petrochemical complex in the strategic port city of Gwadar in Baluchistan province, and the potential acquisition of 2 liquefied natural gas power plants and nearly $4 billion in alternative energy and mining deals. During Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif's debut visit to Riyadh in April 2022, Saudi Arabia affirmed its continuous support to Pakistan and its economy, including an augment the $3 billion deposit with the State Bank of Pakistan. The kingdom also agreed to explore options to further enhance the financing of petroleum products and supporting the economic structural reforms for the benefit of Pakistan and its people. Later in the year, Saudi Arabia rolled over its $3 billion deposits in the State Bank twice, enabling Pakistan to receive $2 billion extended fund facility from the IMF. At the International Conference on Climate Resilient Pakistan in Geneva in January 2023, the Saudi government announced to invest $1 billion in Pakistan. Moreover, the Islamic Development Bank committed $4 billion for the reconstruction efforts after the 2022 flood disaster. The Saudi government has also assured the IMF about its commitments to increase the ceiling on the deposits and the State Bank from $3 to $5 billion. It is also resolved to invest in the refinery and petrochemical projects in Pakistan. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now come to the emerging new order in the Middle East. Recent trends in the region indicate a clear shift from the conflicting era of geopolitics to the progressive push for geoeconomics. At least 3 developments are noteworthy. First, China has emerged as an important economic actor in the region by investing in several development projects under the Belt and Road Initiative. Second, the normalization of relations between Saudi Arabia and Iran, mediated by China in March 2023, presents a historic turnaround in the Middle East geopolitics. Finally, Saudi Arabia is experiencing unprecedented socio-economic transformation under Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman's Vision 2030. Since the success of this vision depends upon reconciliation and conflict resolutions in the Middle East, the kingdom is in the driving seat of reshaping the region towards a more peaceful and prosperous future. Saudi Arabia and the GCC nations are diversifying their relations with the US and China as they diversify their economics under the Saudi Vision 2030 and other vision programs, respectively. The success of this program depends on secure regional environment, China's economic role, the Iran-Saudi normalization and the Saudi Vision 2030 are mutually inclusive transformation, entailing potentially win-win outcome for China and the Middle Eastern states. They must not be viewed from zero-sum perspective of the U.S.-China rivalry. In fact, China and its Arab partners want the U.S. to guarantee security for strategic sea lanes for smooth energy supplies. China is today the largest investor and trading partner of the GCC and the Arab League. Under the BRI, China's state-owned and private companies have invested close to $250 billion in development projects across the region. These investments are operational in the diverse areas such as the development of seaport and transportation facilities, industrial complexes, 5G network, artificial intelligence, emerging technologies, and renewable energy. China is also the largest trading partner, investor, and crude oil customer of Saudi Arabia. Therefore, China has huge trade and investment stakes in the Middle East, which it must protect through facilitating regional reconciliation and conflict resolutions. For this purpose, President Xi paid a historic visit to the kingdom in December 2022. A comprehensive strategic framework agreement was concluded. Saudi and China companies signed 34 investment deals covering several sectors such as green hydrogen, information technology, cloud services, transportation, and logistics. The Chinese leader also attended the summit with GCC and Arab leaders. A common thread in this summit was the critical need for regional reconciliation, peace, and stability. The aspiration was manifested in the Saudi-Iran normalization mediated by China in March 2023. Saudi Arabia and Iran have their own pragmatic reasons to restore diplomatic relations since 2016 and revive economic and political ties since 1979. Normalization of ties with the kingdom will allow Iran to take grave political and economic situation at home. It will also enable Iran to overcome international isolation through expanding trade and investment ties with the GCC. Saudi Arabia's priority is its social and economic transformation program under the Vision 2030. The kingdom understands that the window of opportunities to pull off such a transformation is conditioned on the region's stability, which can only be achieved by having normal relations with Iran. Other reconciliation trends in the Middle East, which either preceded Saudi-Iran normalization or have received impetus from these developments, include the return of Qatar into the GCC fold through the Al-Ula Accord in 2021. The revival of economic and security cooperation between Turkey and Saudi Arabia, the UAE and Egypt, Syria's return to the Arab League, and the prospect of the development and the reconstruction with financial support from the kingdom and the UAE. So far, Saudi Arabia-Iran normalization has been focused on reducing the risk of conflict and restoring normal relations. This process has yet to address deeply entrenched ideological, political, and economic rivalries that have characterized this relationship for decades. Further progress in the normalization process could not only have the way for political resolution in Yemen, but also facilitate conflict resolution in Iraq, Syria, and Lebanon. Iran has huge stakes in China's investment and trade. China's being and the sponsor of Saudi-Iran normalization is a major factor that will dissuade Tehran from reviving aggressive approach towards its Arab neighbors. For its part, the kingdom remain committed to resolving conflict through dialogue for the large good of the region. Ladies and gentlemen, being the largest Gulf nation and the richest Arab state, Saudi Arabia has been an anchor of stability and growth in the Gulf and the Middle East. The kingdom will be more proactive in future in realizing these policies, objectives, and overcoming the challenges in global and regional relationships. This is because for the first time in history, it is ruled by a young and dynamic leader who is steering a fundamental social and economic transformation of the nation to meet the aspiration of our young population. Since 2016, the Vision 2030 has reformed the Saudi society and diversified the Saudi economy in ways that were unthinkable just a decade ago. The young and educated population is steering the expansion of the private sector. The youth unemployment has significantly declined. Reforms have touched almost every aspect of social life, public and private, spanning sport, tourism, entertainment, arts, and culture, and much more. The Vision 2030 has also achieved tangible progress in its founding goal of wearing the Saudi economy away from overbearing dependence on oil as a key source of national revenue. The kingdom's economic recovery and growth in the aftermath of global pandemic has particularly helped to meet desired targets in giga development projects such as the futuristic new city. The Vision 2030 asserts that the sustained prosperity of Saudi people is the essential driver of the country's foreign policy, as well as the prosperity and stability of the region. Ladies and gentlemen, let me now come to the final part of my presentation regarding the potential opportunities emerging from the emerging new order in the Middle East for Saudi-Pakistan relations. The prevailing synergy between the BRI and Vision 2030 is aligned with the China-Pakistan economic corridor. Saudi-Iran normalization raises the prospect for integrating the flagship BRI project, which China economic engagement in Iran. Pakistan must use this window of opportunities to promote its economic interest and contribute to the economic integration of Central Asia, West Asia, and the Arabian Gulf. Clearly, the Saudi-Pak partnership has taken a strategic shift in the recent past, which is manifested particularly in close collaboration on security and economic spheres. Pakistan has intensified security cooperation with Saudi Arabia in bilateral and regional domains, while continuing to aid Pakistan's fragile economy with significant loan commitments and oil supplies on deferred payments. The kingdom has a clear resolve to undertake major investment in Pakistan development sector. The Vision 2030 offers enormous opportunities for employing Pakistan's skilled manpower in the IT, tourism, and financial services sector. Saudi Arabia is home to more than 2 million Pakistani workers and professionals. The kingdom is also Pakistan's single largest source of remittance, around $5 billion annually, but most of these fall into the category of unskilled or semi-skilled labor. Pakistan has ample skillful youth to contribute to Saudi Arabia post-industrial development and in turn shore up its forex reserve through enhanced remittance. Investment and trade are two other important spheres of economic cooperation where the Chamber of Commerce and Industries of the two countries are required to gear up their efforts with the help of the relevant government ministries. There is a lot of scope for investment by private Saudi companies in energy, mining, and other sectors of the Pakistan economy. Therefore, the representatives of the chambers of commerce and industries in both countries need to communicate and interact more frequently. The Pakistani government also needs to create a conducive environment for private Saudi investment by undertaking the necessary legal reforms to protect the rights of foreign investors and ensure the smooth return of their investments. Unfortunately, Saudi Arabia and Pakistan have extremely low level of bilateral trade. Despite being so close politically and culturally, currently estimated to be merely $3 billion annually. Bilateral trade must expand by tracking the negotiating process to sign a free trade agreement. Talk on the free trade agreement began in 2018. Thereafter, representatives from the two respective chambers of commerce and industries have exchanged visits. There is an urgent need for official sponsorship of the interaction between traders and businessmen to identify additional areas where each side has a comparative advantage and to explore complementaries in the tradable products. The Pakistani government needs to establish a working group of economic experts and private sector leaders to identify the specific industrial sectors such as textile, sports, leather goods, and surgical equipment for the Saudi public and private investment. Let me conclude by reiterating that Saudi Arabia today is the land of opportunities. Thanks to the success of Vision 2030, these opportunities will increase as the kingdom drives the Middle East towards peace and stability by normalizing ties with Iran and sponsoring other reconciliation and conflict resolution process in the region. Saudi, Iranian, and Pakistani interests align with the rising power of China. They have a collective interest in trans-regional trade and economic connectivity. for which the China-Pakistan economic corridor occupies a central place. The only way Pakistan can gain maximum benefits from these transformative trends is by putting its own house in order. As I recently wrote in the Arab media regarding the sorry states of Pakistan politics and economy, no country can economically progress unless its political system is stable. Political stability ensures continuity of economic policy. This, in turn, boosts investors' confidence and vitality of all the economic sectors. Conversely, the persistence of political instability undermines the prospects of economic growth. If people are suffering economic pain as a result, any politics in the name of democracy becomes meaningless. Ladies and gentlemen, having served in Islamabad as the Saudi ambassador for almost a decade, I always consider Pakistan as my second home. Let me, therefore, take the liberty in sharing my feelings on the tragic events of 9th May. The armed forces are the guarantors of Pakistan's sovereignty and territorial integrity, both in war and peacetime. It was quite painful for me to learn about the insurrection against army and security installations. This should not happen under any circumstances. So I would like to join all my patriotic brothers and sisters in Pakistan in prayers for the collective wisdom to prevail, enabling this great nations to achieve lasting stability and prosperity. Pakistan Zindabad. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.